This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
The United Shore Professional Baseball League games at Jimmy John's Field are the fun family entertainment experience that you just can't afford to miss. It's Thirsty Thursdays, Firework Fridays, live music Saturdays, and Sunday fun day for the kids. And don't forget, kids get to run the bases after every game, and parking is always free. Jimmy John's Field in downtown Utica is your summer destination. Get your tickets today at USPBL.com.
And welcome to episode number 6 of the USPBL Podcast. I am your host, Vito, and I am riding solo yet again for a second consecutive week as John Charles Macaroon, my usual sidekick and partner in crime and fun, is still recovering from his vacation to Florida. So he had a good time and enjoyed himself with his family, and will be back on for next week's episode of the USPBL Podcast. And with that being said, since he has missed 2 straight weeks of this podcast, I invited on 2 guests. So 2 guests for the price of 1 on this week's episode of the podcast. And with that being said, 2 members of the Utica Unicorns and assistant manager Willi Martin. And he is the assistant manager to Jim Essien of the Unicorns. And then right-handed pitcher Don Goodson, who has a terrific story to tell about his transition from shortstop to full-fledged pitcher in the USPBL. He is a man that has hit 98 miles per hour on the radar gun. He was discovered in a tryout at Jimmy John's Field last summer when he threw 95 from the outfield. Justin Orenduff, the director of baseball ops in the league, discovered him at that point and told him he better make the transition to pitcher, where he has succeeded mightily this year after struggling for the majority of last season with an ERA north of 9. He has gotten into a groove this year with an ERA below 3. And with that being said, let me get to my interviews. And first, with Willi Martin. So Willi Martin, thanks for doing this with me here at Jimmy John's Field in downtown Utica. Now, to start off, how did you actually get to the United Shore Professional Baseball League to be the assistant manager of the Utica Unicorns?
Yeah, well, thanks for having me, first of all. It started back, I built a relationship with Jim Essien, who is the manager of the Utica Unicorns, who I work with, and I built a relationship with him back when I was in college. He tried to get me to play for him before the USPBL came about. I ended up going to the Frontier League, played there for 3 years. After my time there, the USPBL was it was in his second year of operation, and Jim Essien was the manager of the Unicorns, and we had built a relationship, so he knew that long term that I wanted to get into baseball as a career on the coaching side, on the player development or managing side. So he kind of took me under his wing. So I played here for about a month and transitioned into the coaching role last season, and now I'm the assistant manager for him.
And you mentioned you played in the Frontier League, another independent baseball league. So I got to ask you, how does it compare to the United Shore Professional Baseball League here? And what are the similarities and differences between the 2 leagues?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say the biggest difference is just the goal here is player development, and whereas there it's to win baseball games and do by whatever means necessary. And I think that can hinder a player's development, especially a young player right out of college. It can hinder his ability to develop, especially if he has some facets of his game that need to be improved or could be improved. And what makes this league special is that it definitely focuses on the player development aspect, and we can identify strengths and weaknesses, and really market the players to affiliated organizations rather than just try to win baseball games, and players don't necessarily get any better. So it's a really special environment for that.
So really, in other independent baseball leagues throughout the country, they're not emphasizing the developmental side as much as the USPBL, right?
Oh, no doubt. This is a one-of-a-kind, operation in terms of the player development side.
And you played for Jim Essien then with the Utica Unicorns for about a month, I believe, in 2017. Mm-hmm. So for a short period of time. So I got to ask you, the difference between playing for him and now coaching alongside him.
I would say it's not that different, only because I had known him for 3, 4, 5 years previous. I'd say 3 years previously. So we had, just since we knew each other well enough to be comfortable, it wasn't that difficult of a transition. So I would say my experience is maybe different than others, just because he knew he kind of took me under his wing and he was mentoring me to become a coach / manager in the near future. So it was a little bit different experience. It was a mentorship more than anything.
So speaking of that mentorship, Jim is a guy that played in the majors, actually managed the Chicago Cubs as well for a season. So what has he taught you so far about coaching?
Well, he's really just changed my perspective on the game. It's not really about, when you're on the managing side, it's not really about you. It's about the players, especially at the lower levels of minor league baseball, and the player development side that goes into minor league baseball, like here at the USPBL. It's really not about doing whatever you can to draw attention to yourself, and like you can't go up there and hit the home run. So you got to just create an environment that guys can succeed in, that guys can be comfortable in, to allow their skill sets to come out. And I think he's taught me that, and it's really blossomed into something special here.
What do your duties exactly entail as assistant manager for the Utica Unicorns?
Well, really, it's baseball, like anything baseball operations related. The day-to-day stuff with the Unicorns, game management. I would say really the player development side of practices every day. Number one, game management. Really, I would say it's kind of everything that you can imagine that goes into coaching a baseball team. I definitely take part in. It's hard to like put into words, because there's so many different facets to it, because you have to manage, a group of, I think we got 20 guys. So it's really managing 20 different personalities and have them come together so they can be together in one environment that allows all of them to succeed. And, just excel, like based on all of their previous backgrounds and stuff. So it's a unique and difficult to describe position.
I was going to say, dealing with the players and managing their various egos and personalities, as you had already noted. Now, as part of this podcast, I'm going to be interviewing Don Goodson as well, and talking about him and his transition from shortstop to pitching now in the USPBL. What kind of player is he, and what does he need to continue working on in order to reach the bigs one day as a pitcher?
Well, first of all, Donald is just is a perfect example of how this league can really take a player and develop them into all that they can become. He came in as a shortstop, as I'm sure you know, and he came in last year at the senior showcase, and he has an unbelievable arm. He's a second-to-none athlete. I mean, if our guys were to go take ground balls out there, I can guarantee you would think he's still a shortstop. It's just he's fun to watch in everything he does. We've put him into pinch run before, and he steals a base. We told him don't steal because we don't want him to get hurt, but he does it anyway, just because he's so athletic. He can do it. But he's really just like took ownership of his pitching, and he's really worked with Shane Allen, Justin Orenduff, and really developed into a spectacular pitcher. And I think his last outing, he was up to 97 miles an hour, which is outstanding. That's a major league caliber fastball. And his development just is a great reflection upon the league. And I think if he had to work on anything, it's just continuing to fine tune all of his pitches. Because if he can continue to do that, his fastball plays at the major league level, his breaking ball does as well, and his changeup is a work in progress that is very effective when he's commanding it well. So really fine-tuning his pitchability is going to allow his athleticism and his elite caliber stuff to play.
A superb athlete, as you said. I think he actually told me already before this interview with you that he hit 98
really?
on the radar gun.
He may have.
So he's a guy to watch out for moving forward. And how about these guys in the velocity? How important is that for these individuals that are starting arms, relief arms, to throw with some zip, to reach 95 to 97 on the gun in order to reach the big leagues one day?
Well, I think it's important that our guys, I try to do my best to make sure these guys realize that the game is ever changing, the game of baseball, and that goes at the major league level all the way down to the little leagues. The game is changing, and the players and player development strategies have to evolve with the game. And being as how the average major league fastball is harder than it's ever been, roughly just a tick under 93 miles an hour. Not only do pitchers need to throw harder to get to the major leagues, on average, obviously there's anomalies that don't throw as hard, but they have elite caliber stuff, but those are a rarity. But the hitters need to be prepared to hit higher velocity pitching. And how do you have to prepare the hitters to, have shorter swings, quicker swings, more explosive swings that allow themselves to hit pitches like that. So I think, talking about velocity, it goes both ways. I think the pitching and the hitting, it's very important that we prepare pitchers not only to throw harder, but to throw harder for longer, stay healthy. And Justin Ornduff with the delivery value system does an excellent job of that with the help of Shane McCaddy and Alan Oakes. They do an excellent job of, allowing pitchers to use their bodies and use energy correctly to throw harder. And from the hitting standpoint, I take pride in allowing our hitters to, use energy the same way, use their bodies in a way that allows them to hit 93, 95, 97 mile an hour fastballs as if they were 90 mile an hour fastballs.
Your word of advice to anyone that is looking to start playing the game of baseball today, especially among the youth, which I know there's been a deficit in terms of how many are playing nowadays. They're playing other sports such as basketball and football. So what is your word of advice to those young individuals that are looking to get into the game of baseball today?
I would say it's definitely to fall in love with the game. I think, at a young age, I fell in love with the game, and that's what drove me to want to be the best at it. And it still does to this day. I love it. So I think, not putting too much pressure on yourself to, do this or do that. If you really, truly fall in love with the game, you're going to, intrinsically have this passion and desire to continue improving and to be the best you can be at it. Now,
your word of advice for anyone looking to join the USPBL today, what do they need to know about ahead of time regarding the league?
Well, I think what they need to know ahead of time is that they're going to come into a staff that is well educated in baseball, that's versed in the modern game, and that is going to do their absolute best to prepare them for affiliated baseball and hopefully, be the kind of a trampoline, a spring into, affiliated baseball, but also, their future in baseball. We're going to do our absolute best to allow them to develop and reach their potential.
So you're a coach right now, obviously in the USPBL, so I bet you have future career aspirations, potentially even to become a manager, and let's say at the next level with a big league club, starting off in the minors, I would say. But I just put some words in your mouth. So you tell me specifically now, what are your career aspirations moving forward? Yeah, my goal is definitely to manage or be a general manager in the major leagues.
I've been set on that, and I'm working my butt off every day to progress and to become educated and really to just continue improving on all. Like I said, there's a ton of different facets that go into coaching, but I want to become as well versed as I can in terms of player procurement, scouting, player development, every single side of baseball that I can become good at. I want to be the best at it, and I'm going to continue and work my way up to the major leagues.
Willi, I'll leave you with this. What is one unique thing about you that many people do not know?
Oh, man. There's
making you think a little bit now here, right?
There's a lot. Man.
Can be baseball or non-baseball related, which maybe it's easier to think of something that's non-baseball related.
Yeah, if it's non-baseball related, it's got to do something with golf because I love golf. My sister actually is starting Q school this week, so that's kind of cool. So I'm pumped for her. So shout out to my sister.
Very nice.
Let's see. I love golf. I'm from Tampa, Florida. I guess that's a little bit different weather than Michigan, that's for sure.
I bet. And how's your golf game, by the way?
Well, it was good until Scott McDonald. He thinks he's a little bit better than me, but we'll see.
He thinks he's better at probably a few things, right? He's a pretty good ball player himself.
Yeah, absolutely. He definitely is.
Now, you can't golf as often now, right? Either in your role at the USPBL. I would imagine, you're busy, like you said, day-to-day handling operations with the Unicorns. So there's a reason right there, built-in reason or excuse for you why perhaps you're not as good.
Yeah,
so
absolutely. Definitely I'm saving the golf for the off-season. I'm focused on baseball and being the best I can on the baseball field.
Willi, great to hear. Great stuff from you, and best of luck the rest of the way this season with the Utica Unicorns.
Thank you very much, and thanks for having me.
And that was Willi Martin, and now let me get to my interview with Don Goodson. So, first and foremost, thanks for doing this with me, Don. Now, when did you get started playing baseball? How young were you?
I was 3 years old when I first started. It was T-ball, and before that, before I came and walk, I remember throwing the ball down the stairs to my dad and just picking up a baseball, trying to roll it around, throw it around. So I was young. I had to have been around 1 year old.
Wow. Yeah. So really from day one almost. As soon as you could walk. And so baseball was your first love as well?
Yeah, baseball. And I really love football a lot. And football and track. But it was between baseball and football.
So describe your journey in baseball for me. From where you started, you said in T-ball obviously, to reaching now this level in the United Shore Professional Baseball League with the Utica Unicorns.
So when I started T-ball at 3, Been playing like ever since then, every day. As far as like, and then when I turned like 7, I remember my parents moving us to Arizona, and I lived out there for 5 years, so I can play baseball year round. And when I was 12, I played on a coast-to-coast team, went to Puerto Rico, and so it's just been a journey, just traveling across the country, playing baseball, and I loved it. Yep.
So moving out west to Arizona, you said playing in Puerto Rico as well,
Yep.
so overseas. How much of that helped you develop your game as you were able to play year-round because of the great weather, which isn't as great and beautiful over here in Michigan, as you know?
Well, just playing all year round and playing against, like, a lot of good talent helped me a lot, just as far as like the mental side and the physical side, and just seeing like great talent and trying to compete. Is competing against good guys make you better as a player. So
Now, originally born in Detroit then?
Yeah.
Then you came back here for high school.
Yeah.
You went to Detroit Mumford.
Yeah.
So being originally from Detroit, Don, what does that mean to you?
my family was born and raised in Detroit, so it's like a lot of talent, like as far as like the music side and just the history behind Detroit. I think it mean a lot. I mean, like, because like when I go to other states and they ask where I'm from and I say Detroit, they get real excited, like, wow, you're from Detroit. So I just think it's just a blessing to be from Detroit and have that behind my name.
So you brought up your dad, and your dad's been playing with you since you were born.
Yeah.
So it sounds like he had a big influence on your baseball career. Mm-hmm. Can you describe that for me, the impact that he's made on you with your baseball career?
So my dad, he really loved the game growing up, and he played college ball. So, and like when I was like first born, he used to tell me stories like when I was in my mom's stomach. He used to, talk to me and read baseball stories and tell me how I'm going to be great and stuff like that. So as soon as I was born, like he just got right into it, drilled it in my head, like baseball, that's what you're going to do. You're going to be a major leaguer one day. So I just kind of like, was brainwashed at the same time, but like I really love the game. So
Brainwashed in a good way.
in a good way, yeah.
Was baseball your first word then? When you came out of your mom's womb? I mean, maybe it was if your dad was doing all that speaking to you while you were in her stomach. But anyway, so you went to college, you played at Northeastern Junior College, and you played shortstop pretty much from day one of your collegiate career.
Yes.
And now you've made the transition, full-fledged to pitcher in the United Shore Professional Baseball League.
Yes.
Talk about how hard that transition has been, and I guess specifically for you, Don, what has been the most difficult aspect of making that transition from shortstop to pitcher?
It's well you see, like just playing shortstop every day, you throwing every day, and like I was like back in college, I'd come in and throw like one inning or like, you know what I mean? So like just coming from shortstop and just pitching one inning, like you're not really focused on like the mechanics, and then you just throwing, you just using your arm. So like my arm, I have like a lot of like arm problems, not pitching correctly. So now that I'm just strictly focused on pitching, it helps a lot, because like at first I didn't think I can do it, because like when I come in for one inning, my arm would be sore for like 2 weeks. So like my first couple outings last year, I come in and pitch like 1 or 2 innings, and then I'll be sore. So I'm like, that's gonna be tough, like just as far as like the recovery part. And then this offseason, working with Justin Ornduff, he taught me a lot of like recovery exercise and like band work, and helped a lot on my mechanics. So this year I just been coming in, I'm able to pitch 100 pitches and feel good in 3 days. So it's actually like, just if you put the work in and apply yourself and really, buy in, it's not that hard.
Now, I believe I read that you came here for a tryout last year. So you played in the league last season, and you were coming in as a hitter. And you were shagging balls, and you made a throw from the outfield in which you threw it in from the outfield at 95 miles per hour or something of that sort. So that is true, okay? Now, who's the guy that identified you throwing that hard from the outfield and then said, hey, man, you got to make the transition to pitcher if you can throw 95?
Justin Ornduff, he told
Makes
me that.
sense.
Yeah.
What a guy. Director of Baseball Operations in the USPBL. You already spoke about him as well a little bit before.
Yep.
What kind of impact has he made on you and the pitcher that you have become so far?
A huge impact, because I didn't know what I was doing on the mound at all, like the mental side and the mechanic side. So like just working with him this off season, and just picking up, like hearing him talk and teach me, and just picking up knowledge from him, and really learning the pitching side and the mental side of the game, and it helped out a lot. I mean, compared to this year and last year, it's a huge difference, and I wouldn't have been doing this without him.
and we talked about it off the air. Your ERA, and sorry to bring it up, but last year was north of 9.
Yeah.
This year, under 3.
Yeah.
So huge difference from last season to this year. And you brought it up yourself as well, something I didn't know about. You thought, after throwing an inning, your arm started hurting.
Yep.
So what a difference, right? A year has made in this league for you, Don. And what specifically you think has been the difference? And I can tell Justin Orndorff has made a big impact on you and the strides that you've made from year 1 to year number 2 in this league. But what else has made a difference for you in becoming the pitcher that you have become today?
Just really believing in the process and putting in the work and working hard off the field in the weight room and stretching and doing the band work like Justin told me, and just really believing in the dream. Like, if you really want something bad enough, you eventually get it. And I really believe that. So I just put in the work.
And you brought up the mental side as well. There really is that mental grind. And I think unless you're a guy going through it day in, day out, you don't realize that. And I'm not this guy that played a bunch of years of baseball, but I did growing up, and I did realize myself, there's a mental side. Like if you're not glued in mentally in the zone, you might make a mistake, have a mental lapse, and K at the plate or make a bad play, a defensive miscue. And then as a pitcher, too, it might even be more important. So speak upon that, Don. How important is the mental side of things when you're playing baseball, and the mental grind specifically when you're pitching?
So the mental side is like your players is human, you human, so you're going to make errors. You can't let that get in the way of we're really control the controllables, really. So, like, if I'm pitching and I throw a good pitch and the guy hit a ground ball or make an error, or if I throw a curveball in the dirt and it get away from the catcher and for a strikeout and he gets the first, like, you can't let that get in the way of, like, you can't let that you can't get down on yourself, really. And not just like other players making errors, like yourself making errors. Like if I walk a batter, I can't be thinking like, oh, I got to throw a strike here. No, just do what you believe. Trust the process, like what you do in practice. Really, you make mistakes in practice so you can get on yourself in practice. So in the game, you just let it happen. Just be free out there. So if you walk a guy, don't worry about like, oh, I got to get the next guy. I got to throw a strike to this next batter. Just, trusting yourself, throw your pitches, and just whatever happens, happens.
Now, I bet you just said all that, but easier said than done at times, right?
Yep.
I mean, having a bad half inning of pitching or just allowing a home run. I mean, how about the difficulty with bouncing back from that and telling yourself, okay, I allowed this home run or maybe 2.5 inning, right? But I got to get back to doing what I know best. How hard is that at times to get back to pitching effectively?
Well, me personally, if I give up a home run and the next batter, I let that go, because that's gonna happen. It's baseball, and so I just focus on just getting the next guy out. I don't worry about like, oh, I just gave up a home run. I got to try to throw this pitch instead of that. I mean, each batter is different. I mean, if you give up a home run, that happens. It's just part of the game. So you can't let it get in the way, because if you start thinking about that, then you're gonna make another mistake.
How important is film study for you going into each game? Because now it seems like it's become more and more important about studying your opposition, the batters, and what they bring to the table.
I think it's very important because you definitely, when you go out there on the mound, you want to know who you're pitching against. You want to know the hitters. And if you really study on film, you'll see like this hitter is real good on like fastballs in. So, you work him away, off speed away or fastball away. And if he, just knowing your hitters, really, that's important.
Their tendencies, right, in so many words. Now, you had told me off the air, you've hit 98 now on the radar gun recently?
Yep.
Look at that. My God, man. So you bring the heat. What's your range, velocity range?
From around, as a starter, 92 to 98.
Okay, so that's a nice range there. Yeah. So besides for the fastball and that velocity, obviously you know it yourself, you need to mix in secondary stuff.
Yeah.
What are your secondary pitches? And overall-wise, Don, what does your pitching arsenal consist of?
Well, my pitching arsenal is my changeup and my curveball. That works a lot. And I just added a cutter in there that's real good. It's real effective. Broke a lot of bats with it. So them like my main 4 pitches right there: the fastball, the cutter, and changeup, and the curveball.
So how much do you work on each pitch? And does some of the pitches of those 4 take more for you to get good at? And I know the cutter is a new one for you, as you just said. So that one I would have to believe you're working on a lot more right now than the other pitches. Yeah. But just in general, how How much time do you have to devote to learning each pitch?
A lot of time. So like when you playing catch, a lot of guys, they go out there and just throw four-seam grips and just to warm up their arms. Sometimes I'll go out there and just do all change-up grips or mixing the cutters with the and the curveballs and get a lot of. I do probably like around, I say about 40 throws each with just each pitch. So like if I'm like some days I'll go out there instead of just throwing like all four-seam grips like warming up. I might just start off with the changeup and see how that's working. So like each day can be different. Like like in the game, like some days your curveball might not be on, your changeup working well. So you might have to just go with that pitch mostly. So you want to make sure every pitch is effective when you're warming up, or trying to figure it out when you're warming up. So in the game, you never know what pitch might be your best pitch.
Who do you study to learn how to throw those pitches that you named most effectively? I mean, I think of the cutter, Mariano Rivera, who threw just that one pitch in a fastball, right? Two pitches his whole entire career. Saves leader in Major League Baseball history and a Hall of Famer now. And the first ever unanimous selection to the Hall of Fame off of two pitches, and specifically just nailing that cutter and perfecting it. Who do you study at the next level of current and or past Major League pitchers to learn how to throw your pitches most effectively?
I study first pitcher is Pedro Martinez, of course, one of my favorite pitchers. And then I study Max Scherzer. And my teammate, Ty Hensley, he actually taught me the cutter grip. So I want to thank him a lot for that. And it's been working effectively. So, and studying Mariano Rivera, like you named a guy like him, he's only got two pitches. So like that makes me think really all you need is two pitches to really get hitters out. And if your two pitches is real effective, then why not just roll with them two pitches? So like me, I've been focused mainly on my fastball and my changeup and the curveball and cutter just in case.
So you brought up Ty Hensley. He's a guy that's been on the podcast already, by the way, too. A guy that was in a Major League club's farm system at one point, too, with the Yankees, had these high aspirations, right, of becoming a frontline starting arm. So what have you learned from him through his stories about his trials and tribulations? I mean, I think I learned some stuff hearing his anecdotes as well about persevering. He really has had to persevere and go through so many trials and tribulations. So for yourself, Don, what have you learned from Ty Hensley?
I learned that he's a fighter and he's a believer. Like if you look at it, listen to his story, it's extraordinary. Like the stuff he's been through, and I think he's a great man for that. Like how he's still in the game and still playing. Like he's definitely a motivation.
So speaking of learning lessons, how about your manager of the Unicorns, a guy that actually managed in the big leagues for a season with the Cubs, Jim Essien? What have you learned from him so far?
I learned that. I learned how the big league managers, manage. I think Skip is a great guy. He definitely been in my corner, taught me a lot, and help out a lot, real helpful. And I enjoy playing for him. I think I love it. I love every minute of it. And
your assistant manager is Willi Martin, who I just talked to as well for the purpose of this podcast, episode number 6 of the USPBL pod. What have you learned from Willi as well?
Willi, he's real helpful. He help out as far as like the players. He want the players to get better. He's real. What's the word I'm looking for?
A good mentor or something else?
Definitely a good mentor. But as far as like just let you know what's going on and like as far as getting yourself prepared, he makes sure he stay on top of that. So like what's going on the next day. Like he's real on top of keeping everything in order.
So what does he do then, day to day? I know in his role as assistant manager with the Unicorns, he handles the day-to-day operation. So getting you and your teammates prepared, what does he focus on specifically when it comes to that, to game preparation?
Just in practice, making sure the guys, get all the work they need. He's definitely all for the players. So whatever a player need, like he'll spend hours with you, just making sure you trying to get better, make sure you getting better, and make sure you ready for the next game or the next outing. So I think he's a great guy for that.
So a good guy, a player's coach.
Definitely a good guy.
And a mentor, in so many words, along with Jim Essien. So you got two great coaches to learn from.
Yep.
What have they told you, and Justin Orndorff as well, about what you need to continue working on in order to reach the bigs one day, which I know is your dream, obviously, too?
Yep. As far as like just staying focused on every batter, don't take a batter off. Every batter you want to go at and stay locked in. So just really just attacking all the hitters and staying focused.
So I want to get to this now. As a young kid in Detroit, you see these kids growing up, and to get them to play baseball, what would you tell them is important to know, and why should they play baseball, these kids that are growing up in Detroit nowadays?
Well, I think as a kid, just growing up playing baseball, don't get too focused on the mechanics side. Just have fun, be you, because every player is different. So just find out what kind of player you are, and the older you get, you will make them changes, and you'll run across the right coaches that'll help out. And just playing baseball, starting baseball as a kid, it'll change your life as far as like just the brotherhood, the guys around you. Like you just become a better man. Like not just baseball, I'm sure every other sport is the same way, but for me, I just love the game of baseball, just growing up. So whatever sport you really love, go for it and go 100%.
What has that brotherhood meant to you over the years? The impact that it's had on you?
Well, just the guys, like just being helpful and just always having a guy to call on, and it like you might be in a situation where you need somebody to talk to, and you got your player right there just to get you on your feet, whatever.
If you weren't playing baseball, what would you be doing right now?
Probably either football or probably acting.
Okay, acting as well.
Probably get at a shot. Yep.
So you got some favorite actors, I would have to believe
I do,
that.
I do.
Who are some of the guys that you like the most?
I like Denzel Washington and Martin Lawrence.
Very nice. So how about now getting to this field and talking about it, Jimmy John's Field. How about the synergy over here and the energy in the ballpark, game to game? What is that like for you?
I love it. It's definitely a lot of energy every game. The fans come out. They really into the game. The entertainment in between innings, it's different. I love it a lot. So I'm just happy to be a part of it and be out there on the field and the fans cheering you on. So
Don, we've talked for a while here now, so I'll leave you with this question. It might be one that makes you think a little bit here, but what is one unique thing about you that many people do not know? You might have already revealed your hand when you brought up the acting and favorite actors like Denzel Washington, but another thing, or maybe elaborating upon your acting interest and why that is the case as well.
Well, one thing about me is I'm very sincere. I really want to see people do great, and I'm here to help, and I'm real helpful. So that's like the main thing. Like people probably wouldn't know, but I got a big heart.
So you're a good guy off the field.
Yeah.
And I can sense that just through talking to you right now. Very personable and cordial with me, and thanks for all the time. With that being said, and best of luck the rest of the way this season with the Unicorns.
Yeah, thank you.
Great stuff right there from Don Goodson, and best of luck to him the rest of the way this season with the Utica Unicorns. And now to the promotions taking place from Wednesday night through Sunday afternoon at Jimmy John's Field in downtown Utica this week. Starting with Wednesday night, which is tonight. It is Guys Night Out and 2-for-1 Wednesdays at the ballpark. And Guys Night Out is presented by High West Distillery. Tomorrow night, as in Thursday night, is Law Enforcement Appreciation Night. And what I love, and I've told you guys plenty of times now, but Thirsty Thursday at the ballpark, presented by Dave and Buster's. Also, UCS Back to School Night and Blake's Hard Cider Tap Takeover, starting at 6 p.m. at Jimmy John's Field. To Friday now. And it is Suicide Prevention Awareness Night. And as usual, Fireworks Spectacular, which is presented by Metro by T-Mobile. To Saturday, which is Detroit Pistons Night at the ballpark, when the aforementioned Unicorns are taking on Chris Newell's two-time defending champion Birmingham Bloomfield Beavers. Then, in the final game of this week, it is the Westside Woolly Mammoths taking on the Beavers in a matinee at Jimmy John's Field as part of Sunday Fun Day and Minion Villain Party presented by Fairy Tale Entertainment. So, a ton of fun happening at Jimmy John's Field in downtown Utica this week from Wednesday night, that is tonight, until Sunday afternoon. And you know what, guys? I just can't get enough of the Utica Unicorns. And the league, the USPBL, cannot either, as Utica Unicorns infielder Colin Rideout was named the USPBL Player of the Week for the week of August 13th through 18th after recording a .636 batting average for the week with 2 runs batted in, 3 runs scored, and 1 triple. He also finished with an impressive .818 slugging percentage and .636 on-base percentage as part of a 17-game hitting streak that he is currently enjoying. Rideout helped lead Utica to a 2-1 record last week and a 1-game lead in the USPBL standings over the Birmingham Bloomfield Beavers and the Westside Woolly Mammoths. He posted 2 or more hits in every game, tallying a 3-for-4 performance against the Mammoths last Friday night. He and the Unicorns will be in action again this Friday, then also Saturday at Jimmy John's Field. Utica will first take on the Woolly Mammoths on Friday night, and then the Beavers on Saturday. Congrats to Colin on the Player of the Week honor, and best of luck to him the rest of the way this season with the Utica Unicorns. And guys, the season is rapidly approaching its end, by the way, as championship weekend is right around the corner, taking place September 6th through 8th at Jimmy John's Field. And guys, that wraps up this week's episode of the USPBL Podcast. It's been a pleasure, as usual, speaking with all of you, and hope you guys enjoyed my conversations with Willi Martin and Don Goodson of the Utica Unicorns. Guys, we'll talk to you again next week when my co-host, John Charles Macaroon, is back in the saddle. Adios.
The United Shore Professional Baseball League games at Jimmy John's Field are the fun family entertainment experience that you just can't afford to miss. It's Thirsty Thursdays, Firework Fridays, live music Saturdays, and Sunday Fun Day for the kids. And don't forget, kids get to run the bases after every game, and parking is always free. Jimmy John's Field in downtown Utica is your summer destination. Get your tickets today at USPBL.com.